Plus, we're spreading rumors that
That Cory Booker's gay?
Stop it.
Is that the rumor that we're spreading? That Cory Booker, the most elated man to get engaged to a woman, he's not running for president and he's not gay. All right. Just so everybody knows, Cory Booker's thrilled to get engaged and he's not gay.
You guys, I'm getting married. I'm super serious. You guys, I'm getting married to a woman. I am crazy in love with her. Look at these pictures where it looks like I'm about to eat her. You guys, I'm super serious. I'm super serious about this engagement.
Why are they like, I'm engaged?
So much yelling. And he did look like he was going to take a bite out of her. It was so awkward.
My favorite comment on it online was pharmaceutical ads when they list the side effects. And it's just the photos of them getting engaged and screaming next to each other.
I really want to see the speech that he gives at the wedding, because you know he's going to give a speech, right? Like, you know he's going to do his own vows and it's going to have a speech involved in it. I would really like to see.
And it's going to go on for 23 hours.
Yeah. It's going to be, it will be the longest filibustered wedding speech in history. It will last so long. He will have astronaut underwear. There'll be special guests that like hire people to come in to hold their seats for them.
I can see that.
Yeah. And I'm not spreading, I mean, I don't know, unless you think it's a rumor to say that Cory Booker's not gay.
Justin,
he's not
I take
gay.
No responsibility.
You know, okay.
He's not gay.
I hate to have to step in for Cory Booker here, but Justin, if he looked sad in those engagement photos, you'd be making fun of that. What is the proper amount of warm neutrality that Cory Booker's capable of that could have been exercised in those engagement photos?
Every other engagement photo I've ever seen in my entire life, which is
So just
usually
smiling?
the guy smiling and the girl either shocked or surprised. That's every engagement photo I have ever seen in my entire life. Never in my life have I seen an engagement photo where the man is screaming at the top of his lungs, which is just odd. But again, my point here is to say unequivocally that Cory Booker's not gay. He's not. So I don't know what anybody else is insinuating. He's not
You would be great. This is what I hope happens. I hope next time we see a picture, different woman with no explanation. Third time, different woman.
She does look like Rosario
fine,
Dawson,
Cory,
though.
fine.
And he fake dated her the last time he ran for president.
She looks like she could be his daughter.
Oh,
like they both have that same really
Can
toothy
you get
smile.
busted for an age gap in a beard relationship?
You know, okay, wait. There's a former governor of Oklahoma, our second governor, Governor Marlin. Governor Marlin, probably gay, which is important to the context of what I'm about to say. He becomes governor. He and his wife adopt a daughter, and then his wife dies. And while Governor Marlin goes, well, I have to have a first lady. I guess I'll just marry my daughter. You know, she's not blood and she's of age. So he married his daughter. And then he ended up going completely bankrupt and she went crazy. It seemed to have some deleterious effects on her mental health.
Oklahoma not beating the allegations.
Yeah.
See, I want to write a book someday called The First Crazy State, where I'm just like, Florida's a Johnny come lately. Johnny come lately. Like we got the party started early and hard.
Different kinds of crazy. Yeah. Florida's the drip pan for lunacy. Like everywhere else in the country, if you burnt all your family and friends writing bad checks and stealing from them, you eventually wind up in Florida. Florida has a home for you. Like we will welcome you with open arms, and you can be just as psychotic as you ever wanted to be in the Sunshine State as your brain slowly melts.
We tend to produce just really florid lunatics in Oklahoma. Like we had I need to look into this guy, but we had a member of Congress. This is a way ago. This was like maybe 1920, 1930, where his mother had had him out of wedlock and just convinced him it was a virgin birth. And that was a thing he maintained for years, that he didn't have a biological father like Jesus. For that reason, his name was like Emmanuel or something. And then when he got in Congress, he basically did like a bachelor style show where he tried, while in Congress, did like a contest of like who will marry Congressman Emanuel. And yeah, I don't know what ended up happening to the guy. I need to look into him.
Yeah. We have a nice email here. Well, that's nice, right? I'm writing in to touch in on Justin's comment about parasocial relationships because you guys have an impact on us listeners. September will mark 8 months since I've had booze. And while I've done dry January a number of times over the years, I've always put my sobriety cap back on the shelf until the next. But this past February, I decided to go another month, then another. And something as little as you guys talking about taking a year off of booze put the idea in my head to do the same, which was Heaton. All right, here's where I really come for Jen. Jen, I used to listen to your old podcast, Talking Fat. I quit drinking and thought, fuck it, while I'm at it, I might as well start walking when I have my nightly cigar. Combined with tracking my calories, which Jen can confirm is a total bitch, I am down 40 pounds lighter and sober, thanks to the golden trio here on We're Not Wrong.
I have never loved an email more. I'm, to be paternalistic about it, like, I'm proud of you. That's amazing. So thank you for sharing that with us.
That's nice. That's wonderful. Thank you for the email.
Fucking heinous toward you.
Also, I like that we should have called ourselves the Golden Triad, like the Dark Triad, only happy. We could have been the Golden Triad.
Yeah, or the Golden Triad. Which also brings us to Andrew Heaton Sports Question of the Week.
All right.
Hey, Heaton.
Yeah.
When Lee got that head midfield, not a dry eye in the house, huh?
You know, call me old-fashioned, but I think that
90-year-old Lee just getting that 80s head right there at midfield.
You know, as somebody that is a veteran football fan, I think that men bond with each other in a variety of ways. And if you don't want to see oral sex on the 30-yard line, don't go to a football game. That's just how I was raised. And if he can, if he can salute at that age and somebody, and this is very important, consensually agrees to help him out, then that is between...
I mean, it is an institution. He's been...
Well, and also the fact that Lee's still playing at 90, in and of itself is a great testament, that he's out there. And if at 90, if you're slinging that ball and you need to sling a little dick to stay in the game, good for you, friend. We should all be so lucky as to be 90-year-old footballers getting ahead on the field.
The most disgusting part about that is that Heaton believes midfield is the 30-yard line, which is pretty.
No. Okay, that's, as you know, I'm in Scotland, and they use a metric system over here. So when you convert it,
it's probably
30-yard
still
line.
Not that.
Yeah, 30-yard line. Yeah.
Jen, do you want to explain this to Heaton?
I actually don't know what we're talking about.
You don't know. Okay.
I've been checked out playing my own sports.
93-year-old Lee Corso has been a fixture on the program College Game Day for, I think, 30 years. And one of the things that he has done at the end of every episode of College Game Day, when they all make their picks, he goes last. And he will take the mascot head of whoever he thinks is going to win, and he puts it on his head. It is a goofy television tradition that is beloved for fathers and sons, fathers and daughters that love college football. And he was doing his last one on Saturday, and so they did it at midfield of the big Ohio State game, and he got the first one that he ever did, which was in the early 80s, the Brutus the Buckeye head from 1983. They gave him that old head to put on his shoulders at midfield. What you have said is an abomination, and now everybody who's aware of what 93-year-old Lee Corso looks like will imagine him getting a sloppy beach at the 30-yard line thanks to you.
Justin did kind of set me up for that. If you want to get mad at me, what I would have said
The question was
is
a little bit of leading.
Why didn't he wear like a Grim Reaper helmet? That would have been funny. That would have been a really good, like if they'd given him like the Grim Reaper outfit. So like get mad at me for that. That's tasteless and offensive.
He was picking a game, like not his own life. He wasn't picking his life expectancy and going with the Grim Reaper.
Yeah, he's not killing himself.
All right, well here's to another 40 years of his retirement.
Yeah. He was right. Ohio State won. much to the consternation of the Manning family. One more piece of news before we get going, and that is, ladies and gentlemen, we got him. Not Osama bin Laden, but rather C-SPAN coverage on Hulu and YouTube TV. We have told you guys about this fight for a long time, and the announcement was today. They will get coverage on both of those streaming services. So both Google and Disney will now join the cable conglomerate on paying to carry C-SPAN, which is the way that they make money, the way that they are able to operate. This is a generational move that was made. And so credit to everybody at C-SPAN and their new CEO, Sam Feist, who has made this his mission to try and secure the next quarter century of C-SPAN coverage. So coming to the streaming service near you, credit to C-SPAN and everybody else who yelled at Hulu and yelled at YouTube to cover it. You guys were all a part of it. So thank you.
I've been talking to OnlyFans to get C-SPAN on there, and I think this is going to be the move that allows that to happen. This could change everything.
Can you imagine Howard Mortman on Instagram plugging his OnlyFans?
I could see him doing like everything he's regularly doing, but also like a little ASMR,
yeah.
Hi, I'm Howard, and I'm going to be crinkling a little bit of styrofoam today.
Who did Michael Dukakis invite to his Halloween party? The answer may surprise you. Subscribe to my OnlyFans. We all got actually thanked by Howard Morton when the news broke. Jubilation throughout C-SPAN, and we got a very celebratory email. So thank you to Howard Mortman, who was on my show last week, and one of the most amazing athletic achievements I've ever seen in my entire life. I literally just played a mic tone for him, and he nailed exactly the event that I had taken the clip from. It was
not the decade, but the event.
Yes. He second guessed himself.
You had like a low buzzing sound, and he'd go like, that sounds like the room tone of the Japanese embassy where George H.W. Bush vomited on the Prime Minister of Japan, like that kind of thing.
You can see it on my YouTube, and I think I put it up on TikTok as well. Literally, this is the entire clip. Is somebody saying 30 seconds and then room tone. Nothing else. And he's like, I got it. Jim Lehrer hosting presidential debates in the 2000s. He thought initially it was like, oh, was it 2004? No, he nailed it. Tim Lehrer hosting the first presidential debate in 2000, Bush versus Gore. And he fucking got it ice cold. That dude
Thank God Howard decided to use his powers for good. Imagine if he had decided to become like a card counter in Vegas. Like he could have done that. But for us, he went to C-SPAN.
He did.
Yeah. I'm so excited to have it on YouTube TV. It's going to be actually life-changing for me to have that.
Quad box. We can go quad box now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's nice. Who are you going to kick out though? Who gets the axe out of your
MS
quad?
Now?
Oh, I actually haven't watched the quad in a while. Like television news.
If I remember correctly, you had Fox, CNN, MSNBC, and BBC, right?
And BBC. Yeah. That's the one that's pre-programmed by YouTube. I would assume that I'll just have 3 C-SPANs and then maybe Fox, because Fox is the only television news that's relevant now. All the rest
it's basically like the White House channel at this point. Like, what propaganda do they want to get out?
Nobody watches the other one. So it's like the reason why I wanted to watch the channels before was because they could shape public opinion. But when 11 people are watching CNN and 5 people and 3 cats are watching Miss Now, like, like what's the point? Like, I might as well watch Twitch streams. Like, Twitch streams literally have more political swing to them than CNN or MS Now.
Yeah. Well, I would put 3 C-SPANs in the box. So I support that decision.
Kirk Beto of the National Journal suggested that Howard and I host a Red Zone for C-SPAN.
Oh my God, that'd be so fun.
Justin, is Red Zone another sports term?
Yes.
What is a Red Zone?
That's
because it's previously established.
Dick sucked at the 30-yard lines.
Okay, so there's the infield, there's the mid zone, and then there's the red zone.
So the red zone is a term in football when the offensive team has only 20 yards or less to go to score. It is also the name of a channel, a beloved channel that allowed people to watch. It just is one channel that curates your NFL experience. So it just switches around to any team that is in the red zone or approximately close to it.
Because sometimes like on Saturday mornings, you'll have 10 games going on at once. And so if you're just in it for your fantasy football team and you just want to watch all the different players score, it'll go from game to game and it'll switch when they're close to scoring. It's actually really fun to watch.
So
this sounds like a great premise for a show with Howard, Justin. I commend you to do this.
Sam, the people are begging for it. Me and Howard Mortman switching between confirmation hearings with C-SPAN. That'd be the way to go.
I think you need a woman on this show.
Oh, look who's booking herself. Look who's booking herself.
You know I know more than you do about a lot of these people.
That's true. That's a fact. That's a fact.
I love the hearings. So C-SPAN 3 coming soon to YouTube TV and Hulu. It's the best one.
From Austin, Texas, I'm Justin Robert Young from a beach in Southern California.
I'm Jennifer Briney.
And from the United Kingdom,
I'm Andrew Heaton.
And we're not wrong. On this edition of the program, we're going to be talking about the president dying, at least on your social media feed, and whether or not the White House will declare a housing emergency. And if so, what they will do. All that plus your emails. Heaton, I was creeping on your location the other day. Are you in Scotland or are you somewhere in England?
I was in England. How were you creeping on my location? Did I share Google with you at some point, then turn it off or not turn it on?
Yeah, you've shared Find My on Apple.
That's how we knew that you were at the ABBA museum instead of working that one day.
Right. Okay. Okay. I was clean on that. My friend Matt Ridley, who wrote The Rational Optimist, which is a wonderful book. He's a very talented science writer. I go down to see him every year, and normally he's north of Newcastle, but he's on vacation this week, or as he calls it, holiday in County Durham. So I went down there and hung out with him on his farm yesterday evening, and then I hopped the train, came back up for this. But I was down. I was in another country, kind of last night and this morning, sort of.
It does matter out there. I think my favorite difference between America and the United Kingdom is that you can go 400 miles in America and you're still in the same state and everybody still roots for the same football team.
Yep.
But if you do that in the United Kingdom, the accent has changed 5 times, as has the name for sausage rolls.
It was the first time I've ever felt weird traveling in the UK, because I've been all over Scotland. Like, I got a map and it's ridiculous. I've gone all over this lovely country. And then I went south of the border and I was like, houses are weird here. They're cuter, but weird. Because like the houses in Scotland, the Scots love beige gravel houses. I don't know why. Someone needs to talk to them. I've been trying. But they look more like hobbit holes in England. And I was like, this is noticeably different. It's cuter, but like I feel slightly alarmed because I'm not in like home territory anymore.
Yeah.
Also,
So
probably I've like related to some people around there way back. We probably owe them money. So I got to keep my head down.
Let's talk about the president dying. Over Labor Day weekend, President Trump's absence from public events and visible signs like a bruised hand and swollen ankles sparked a viral trend on Twitter with hashtags like Trump is dead, a remark by Vice President J.D. Vance about being prepared in case of tragedy further fueled speculation. Despite the frenzy, there wasn't really any evidence to support it. Trump did post on Truth Social throughout the time that he was missing and also did an hour-long interview on conservative media. And on Tuesday, Trump resurfaced at a White House press event dismissing the rumors as fake news and asserting that he has been very active and is in fine health. Jen, why did very online liberals believe that Donald Trump was dead?
This was the funniest phenomenon this weekend because, like, I genuinely, and I literally mean this, I think it was wishful thinking because, right? Because there was like excitement about it. Like, I woke up, we had friends over, and I woke up one morning and someone was like, "Do you think the president's dead?" And I was like, "No, why would you even ask me that question?" And they were like, "Because it's trending on Twitter." And I was like, "Yeah, but there's like a whole process that would happen. Like, JD Vance would be the president. We would know if the president were dead." But they were
Cory
so
Booker would
like,
have said something about it.
yeah, he would have been very excited and showing all his teeth and like biting women.
This is the greatest day of my life. I'm getting engaged and the president's dead, you guys. I'm super serious.
Yeah. So there was like a giddiness about even the prospect of it. And I figured like that would be the end of the conversation where I just come in and like squash the dreams and it would be over. But it kept going. Like we would go out on the sand and people like, "Do you think Trump is dead?" I was like, "Are we still having this conversation? Because this doesn't make any sense." And like it continued yesterday to the point that my husband came out because Trump was scheduled to give a news conference or something. Yes. And so he turns on the TV. He never does this. And he's like, "I just want to see how he looks, see if he's about to die." And I'm like, "Dude, this is all fake. Like, what are we doing?" And then of course Trump comes out 45 minutes late, looks perfectly fine.
Yeah.
But there was like excitement about the prospect of it. And for me, I remember when he almost got shot in the head, right? And all of us were like, that would be bad. And like,
I don't remember that. When was that?
Would be bad. But I think there is a significant portion of people in this country that are like, okay, I can't root for assassination, but death by arteries, like that puts me in the clear and it puts an end to this. So I think that people were just hoping that he was dead and it just went out of control because like there was a whole rabbit hole. People were analyzing pictures and I'm just fascinated by the whole phenomenon because when I look at this, like, didn't we just get rid of a president because he was like old and feeble? And then here we are less than a year later, we're in the same exact situation. Like, how are we here? And I really wanted to hear your take on what just happened this weekend because I felt like I was living in a silly universe where it was just like this rumor had no basis in fact, and yet it went so far.
I was getting multiple texts from people that just assumed I was read up on this mass fucking psychosis and B wanted like my opinion on it that were like, so if this is real, like what happens next? And I'm like, I have no background. I'm like, I don't even want to like get into it. And then I find out it's like, no, liberals online just gaslit themselves apropos of nothing with like the scantest evidence. Cause like, I hear you on the Biden.
There's a bruise on his hands. And he had the vein thing,
he's
remember?
A fucking man in his late 70s. They get bruises on their hands all the time. Like that is like among the most scant evidence that you could possibly have. Like his ankles are swelling. Yeah, he like walks around and golfs all the time. And like sometimes 70-year-old people, their bodies do odd things. But it wasn't like Biden where he was like falling over or clearly losing his train of thought. Or there was that one time with Biden where it looked like he was shitting himself on stage at the big memorial for D-Day. Like there was at least things that were happening with Biden publicly where it's like, okay, if that's happening publicly, what's happening behind the scenes? The impetus for this was that Donald Trump didn't do a press conference over a holiday weekend.
Yeah, and old man takes holiday break. We don't think he's dead.
The number one thing on Ask Reddit was, is it normal for the president of the United States to not hold an event on a national holiday? And the number one comment was like, something's clearly up, and then 11 reasons, why something's clearly up, as opposed to what should have been the number one answer. Yes, that's very normal. It's very normal for a president to not hold a press event on a national holiday. If anything, the only thing that it said to me was, to your point, Jen, yes, there are a lot of people that wish Donald Trump were dead. We can get into it a second. why that's a very bad idea for you if you hate Donald Trump. But number two, he is so present. He does flood the zone as part of his strategy. He does. I mean, he had just that previous week, he did a 4-hour live covered chief of staff or secretary, whatever. That meeting.
Oh, circle jerk, I think is the technical term.
I believe it was a presidential circle jerk. I think Jen's got that right. Yeah.
There we go. Yeah. It was a red zone, a real red zone.
So, hey, one, I'm with Jen. I think so many people want him to die that they gaslit themselves into it. What I find kind of funny about that, I think I've mentioned this before, apologies. One of my friends, Mike Kaplan, has a great joke where one of his friends went, man, I wish chocolate cake tasted like dog shit. And he's like, why? And he's like, because it's so fattening. If it tasted like dog shit, I would eat less of it. And my friend Mike goes, why don't you just wish that chocolate cake was less fattening? Like it's your wish. So in this scenario, if we're gonna like, God damn it, why don't you just wish he's a better guy? Like if you're just burning wishes, just wish that he comes out and he's like, you know what, I've been a dick. I'm so sorry. I'm gonna endorse all of the policy positions you want. Also, if I were him, because he's vain, right? We can agree on this. He's vain and
extraordinarily vain. Yes,
he's got the bruise. I think in the article you sent, Justin, there was evidence that he'd like shalloped some makeup onto his hand to cover up the bruise. Yeah. He should just say that, I bitch slapped Secretary Scott Bessent. That's it. Like I backhanded him. And then like, he'd agree. Of course, he'd be like, he hits so strong. I was out for 3 days. I couldn't even think. My teeth fell out of my head. Like, just go with that. That'd be a funnier thing to do.
The state of liberalism right now is just bleak, dude. It's so bleak. Like it's MAGA tape delayed. The number one things that liberals care about are their favorite politician tweeting in all caps, Epstein, the president might be dead, and election denial. These are the top things that are talked about with liberals.
I'm going to push back a little bit on that. Like, okay, Trump bloviates so much and he sucks so much air out of the room constantly that if he just shuts the fuck up for 72 hours, people literally think he's dead. So, that raises some questions of maybe you should just shut the fuck up more frequently. Like maybe if whenever you just don't talk for 72 hours, it's so bizarre to people that they think you're dead. That's evidence that, maybe he's just, kind of a blowhard dick.
I have said before that we've nicknamed him Crump on the show, but Calm Trump is quite possibly the most compelling political figure of my lifetime. When he calms down and when he speaks in not a P.T. Barnum tone, but just like an elder statesman, like a 70-year-old dude. Like
it's freaky.
Think the tone that he had when he was in Walter Reed when he had COVID. Like America loves that dude. Like far more of America loves that dude than the dude that speaks all the time.
And it works. It works every time because every time he does it, I, the cynic who has left jobs because of Donald Trump, I'm like, okay, maybe this is the real Donald Trump. Maybe this time. Yeah. Maybe he's finally going to go not doing the shtick anymore. I'm going to be the moderate practical guy.
I finally have nothing left to prove. I will just talk in a regular tone of voice.
And then like 5 minutes later, he'll be like, which is why we should hit Rosie O'Donnell with golf balls. And you're like, you got me again.
Yeah. When I look at the liberal response to this, I do wonder if it's kind of like a trauma response because of what just happened to Joe Biden. Like you had this Joe Biden that they all convinced themselves was a good, decent man. He would never lie. And then he lied his ass off about his own health conditions. And then here we are with a man who is not decent, is a pathological liar, who's also probably lying about his health condition. I mean, the bruises, I understand it's not like I saw a whole thing. It was a TikTok that made it over to Instagram. And so it was this heart surgeon who was like, he's definitely dying of congestive heart failure. He'll be dead in 4 months because of bruises on his hands. I'm like, okay, but there is something going on there. And it is in my realm of belief that he would be lying if there was something wrong with him, that he would be hiding it in the same way Biden did. And that they were saying was like a huge scandal in the last administration. So once again, the Trump administration, there's no consistency here. There's tons of hypocrisy
to be absolutely
with it.
clear.
But I think for liberals to freak out about Trump being gone, I think they are kind of also calling on that hypocrisy in their own way, where it's like, we were so concerned about Biden and now we should probably, be as concerned about Trump's health issues. I don't think it's this weekend. I don't think it was that serious, but I do think had Biden not lied about his health and been yanked out of office the way he was, or at least out of the campaign, I'm not sure that this weekend would have happened. I do think the two are kind of connected.
You are right. There's an element of liberal that is convinced that Donald Trump is exhibiting more grievous signs of dementia than Joe Biden was, more physical signs of decay than Joe Biden was. And it is because the media is conservative or cowardly or whatever that they are not reporting it. I will say, I think that that's fucking crazy. And I think anybody who says that is blindly partisan. But that person exists.
Wait,
like that train of thought exists.
Just to clarify, like, which part is crazy, that Trump is diminishing or that the media is not calling him on it? Because I feel like this story is everywhere.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is the belief of the people that believe that the New York Times is too conservative. Like that, like that kind of person that's like, well, the New York Times is clearly a conservative outlet, and so they won't cover X, Y, and Z. Like that kind of person is what I'm talking about. As for like, look, it's Joe Biden's mental acuity was the issue. His brain fog, his losing train of thought. I'm not saying that Donald Trump is not a rambly bitch. He is extraordinarily rambly, but he's
that
rambly
plus diet pills.
Yeah, like he's rambly in a way that he's been for 10 years that we kind of know, and he talks constantly. We have no question about his energy in the way that we did with Biden, who would like apparently only work 3 hours a day between like 10 and 1. He would, and then go to sleep immediately. And he was just kept in a hyperbaric chamber for most of his presidency. That's what people were worried about then. I don't see a comparable situation now. Now, maybe we will. Maybe there's going to be different stuff. If he falls down at an event, who knows?
How would we tell? What I mean by this is when you watch Donald Trump, he's a very engaging speaker. He's very vivacious. He's very energetic. When you read a transcript, it's very rambly and fucking weird. Like if you just read transcripts of Trump, you're like, the fuck is going on?
Yeah.
Because he'll say the same thing. He'll repeat it. He'll back up,
and much of it wrong.
It's a very big train. It's a big train. It's a beautiful train. I like the train. Some people don't like trains. I like trains. The train that I was on was a big train. And it somehow works when he does it verbally. When you read it, you're like, this is gobbledygook.
Yeah.
So if he did begin to slip from whatever the normal mental stasis point is of Donald Trump, I'm not sure I'd pick up on it. I think maybe it would just, if they gave him enough diet pills and Pepsi, the energy level would just override the substance to the point where I may not notice the gap.
Well, I think that the difference between Biden and Trump is that when we voted for Trump, especially the second time, he was already this guy. So I've watched old interviews of Trump from the 80s and 90s. He's clearly diminished. He used to be much more eloquent and understood things better. But he was already this dude. Like we saw his speeches in person and they were just rambly garbage. And so the difference, I think, is that we thought that Joe Biden was still the Joe Biden of the Senate. And then it was shocking to us when he had changed. Trump hasn't changed. He's been this guy since at least 2016. And we, for better or worse, voluntarily chose to put this into the presidency. I think that's why he kind of gets a pass in a way that Biden didn't for the mental stuff.
Can I speak to the liberals listening right now? You don't want him to die. You really, really, really do not want him to die in office. It makes he's going to be looked at 20 years from now as a folk hero. He's going to be very popular
or
20
as
years
a
from now.
super villain. Like,
no,
let's
I mean,
see
look,
here.
I'm telling you, I see fucking daily on TikTok compilations of George W. Bush, that nostalgia has hewn away all of the unpopularity of what I would consider to be the most unpopular president, if not politician, of my lifetime. And now all people talk about are jokes he made on the campaign trail, him throwing a fastball at Yankee Stadium. And
I kind of like Nixon. I probably would have hated it back in the day, but I'm like, I don't know. He did some good stuff. I don't know why everybody hates him so much.
There's so many legitimately funny clips of Donald Trump that when nostalgia comes to wash away the things that people don't like to talk about, aside from academics and hardened critics, they will remember the silly stuff. They will remember the charismatic stuff. This is going to be what it is. So let's start there. He's going to be more popular the farther we get away from his presidency. That is just a belief
I can't agree with that premise though, because what if
that's fine. I'm talking to the liberals. Can butt out of my conversation with the liberals.
Considered one of them.
Oh, now you want to label. Now you want to label. Before it's oh no.
Yeah, but like as the token on this show, like if you're talking to my people,
let me finish and then you can.
We
disagree.
don't agree.
Let me finish and then you can disagree.
Okay.
If he dies in office, he's Kennedy. Things that wouldn't get passed will get passed because he will be looked at more favorably than if he didn't die. The Civil Rights Act did not get passed with Kennedy. It got passed with Johnson. Kennedy couldn't pass the Civil Rights Act. He didn't have the juice to do it. But when he died, Johnson was able to fold in public sympathy for a slain president and ram it through. If your point is
Slane's a part of that though. Like if he pops out because he takes too many Viagra and just dies on the toilet a la late stage Elvis, I do not think it will command that same level of sympathy from a grieving nation.
It will be more sympathy than he has now, regardless of how he dies. If he dies of a heart attack, he will be looked at as giving his life for the country. This is that, especially because he's been shot at and he survived. So he's better than Kennedy in the minds of, some. After all, he likes the people that didn't die, as he said about, or weren't captured, as he said with John McCain. I'm telling you, you don't want this. And if you don't believe me, go read Edinger Mentum. He's one of my favorite liberal poll watchers, great political mind. Go on Substack. That dude fucking despises Donald Trump. He has a column that has two main points about the idea of Trump dying. Number one, don't worry about JD Vance because he is weak and pathetic. And number two, you should be afraid of Donald Trump's ghost. Donald Trump's ghost is a bigger threat to anything that you hold dear than anything else that could happen. The idea of him being looked at as more of a martyr than he is right now is legitimately a political problem for people that hate him and hold politics that are absolutely oppositional to him. Go ahead.
So I'm going to play devil's advocate here on the side of the artery plaque. Because I think Donald Trump is a unique phenomenon here. So if he were to die because natural causes, and of course there's going to be the MAGA wingnuts that are like, he's poison. And so it's like, there's going to be people that'll have conspiracy theories, but most of us who don't, we would then be in an era where JD Vance, as you said, who is weak and unlikable, would be the president. You'd still have the chaos in the Congress. I don't think that they would be able to continue with some of the more Trumpian things. Like, I think the tariffs would be done. I think that the concentration camps would probably be minimized. I don't think JD Vance is going to go and send the National Guard into a bunch of different cities because he's a pussy. He doesn't have the balls that Trump does. You got to give it to him. Like, Trump just does whatever the fuck he wants. JD Vance just isn't that guy. So I do think that in a post-Trump, pre-2029 situation, if he were to die of natural causes, and I think that's key, I don't think that we would be in as bad a situation as we are now. I can see why people are kind of hoping.
Hard disagree.
For the hard arteries.
Hard disagree. I think people will look at all those things as more favorable.
No way.
I think I'm with Jen though, just for one specific reason. One, I do think there's a difference between being slain and tapping out in terms of national sympathy. But eliding that for a moment, Trump has an incredible personal command on movers and shakers in the Republican Party who are afraid of him and are afraid to step out of line on anything that he says. I don't think J.D. Vance would have that power at all, which means that you would see the Republican mechanism start to splinter and break apart. He wouldn't just inherit the level of clout that Trump has within the Republican Party. He would be a dominant player in it, but you wouldn't see that same kind
Eventually,
and I don't think he shares
yes,
the goals.
but not in the near term. In the near term, it would be operating in Trump's ghost would be guiding whatever is happening, and he would be looked at as more sympathetic because he's fucking dead.
I don't think, but he wouldn't be there to like have the crazy chaotic orders.
Yeah. I mean,
like that's the problem with Trump is that
look,
he just gets an idea and goes with it.
My record of understanding Trump's support within America, I feel like speaks for itself, at least on this panel. Everybody can believe whatever they want. Listen to me now, believe me later on. You don't fucking want it. What you want is Donald Trump to remain in office and become less popular and to see some of these policies that you so abhor become less popular throughout the mainstream of American politics. That's what you want. But I also
disagree that he's popular. If you have a poll number that is saying that you have a 35% approval rate, that's an F. That's a hard F grade.
He also has poll numbers that show that he's at 55% approval. His approval numbers are all over the map.
That's an F. 55 is an F. He's not popular.
No. I mean, in the context of modern presidential or approval ratings, he's above where Obama was in his second term in the aggregate.
So I don't believe that to be true.
That's
Those
fine.
are not.
You're the one who brought it up. I didn't bring it up.
Brought what up? Oh,
his
you're the one
rating.
who's saying that he's so popular. He's not.
I'm not
popular.
I'm saying he would be more popular dead than he is alive, because traditionally that's what happens with humans.
Yes, but I don't think he would be more powerful dead than alive. That's also what happens with humans.
His agenda would be.
I don't think so. I think his agenda exists only in his head. And one of the issues is with this man, we don't know where his head's going to go next week. It's always a surprise with this fucker. So at least with traditional Republicans back in charge, it would be tax cuts. But like J.D. Vance never ran on concentration camps for immigrants. He was not going to do tariffs. That is not a Republican Party thing. Like, we know that there are Republicans in Congress through our back channels. I mean, at least I do, that are not happy at all with this tariff plan, but they're going along with it because it's Donald Trump's idea. There's plenty of things happening right now that the Republican Party is not on board with, but they're afraid of that particular man. They're not afraid of J.D. Vance, and they're not afraid of Mike Johnson, and they're not afraid of Mitch McConnell, and they're not afraid of John Thune. Like, he is a specific thing. And if that thing were gone, I think the power vacuum would be very messy for the Republicans and they wouldn't be able to get much done.
You're right. I will say that he is unique. I'm telling you that Kennedy was unique, and that when Kennedy was gone, there was a window for which public sympathy plus the ability to push things through met each other. And granted, LBJ was a seasoned operator in the Senate in the way that J.D. Vance isn't. But I mean, you can't write a eulogy about Donald Trump without talking about his policies in a way that will make them more sympathetic. Like that will happen.
But I think the difference between what JFK was trying to do and what was finished by Lyndon Johnson was give people rights. I think what's happening now is the opposite. So it's going to be really hard to continue to make the case for martial law and for yanking innocent people off the street and for tariffs that people in both parties don't like. Like, the policy itself does not seem like bending the arc towards justice. And so that's why I think it's going to be a harder case to make without this particular dude making it.
Everything that you're saying, so crime and safety, which, Donald Trump has made a thing. It was also the reason why Nixon got popular. Mass deportations were a majority popular position through the end of the election cycle. And people might not like how it's being done now, but it was more prescient and more popular than it's ever been that I have seen in any kind of public polling on this issue. Now, you can be mad about it. You can be angry about it. And you can call it martial law, and you can do and you can say whatever you'd like. But I don't think that beyond the political lens. So we're talking about, look, if you already hate Donald Trump, you already hate these policies, you're going to keep hating him if he's dead. And you're probably going to be thrilled that he's fucking gone. But I'm talking about the rest of America. And the rest of America usually looks at dead people more fondly than they did when they were complicated and living.
So let's say this happens, that Donald Trump taps out. With Kennedy had a stated goal of something approaching the Civil Rights Act, right? So LBJ could go, we're doing this for our slinking. What would the Trump agenda be when J.D. Vance has the bully pulpit and he goes in and he goes, there's this one thing Trump really wanted to do that we didn't have political capital for. What is that thing?
I think largely it would be finishing what Donald Trump started. If I were to take a guess, so Donald Trump dies today, where does the median opinion go? Everything that everybody thinks J.D. Vance is too weak to do because he's a pussy, he will have the political will to do.
But specifically what?
Everything you just said. Deportations, crime and safety, deploying the National Guard to Chicago, the tariffs, reshoring American manufacturing, whatever they say is that thing. The view will be Donald Trump was a necessary great man who changed this country and died in the process. He gave his life for the country, and that's why we need to continue with the work that he has done. And
I don't think so.
Damn the liberals who are being gross right now and are dancing on his grave. That shows their inhumanity. And that's why they should be ignored. That's
fact that we can't pick one that they would be able to rally around. And I can't say who I get this information from, but from inside Congress, there are going to be Republicans where if Donald Trump were to die of natural causes, would be like, oh, thank God. So I don't think that there would be one policy that they would rally around. And in the picking of which policy that they would try to go forward with in Trump's name, I think there'd be so much infighting with these people. There's too many Republicans that are not on board. They're publicly on board, but not privately.
Just all he wanted was to take Canada and make it the 51st state. And we really owe it to him to take Canada. Don't we? For that dead man? Yeah.
I'm just telling you, death has a weird thing. It has a weird way of changing things.
As the token moderate, I'm going to split the difference and say I agree with you both partially. So I do agree with Jen. I do not think the cult of personality is transferable. I think that goes with Trump. So I think that anything that he's able to make happen through sheer loyalty politics to him and the reality that if you go against him, you're going to get primaried, you're going to get knocked out. I don't think that's going to transfer. That being said, though, Justin, I think you're absolutely right in that if you are a liberal, a far better thing for you to root for is that Donald Trump fails and then serves out his term and then leaves disgraced and unpopular. That would be a better thing long term, rather than giving any type of animus to whatever he was doing or remembering him in a good light. If he died in office, you couldn't have a lot of people come out and dance on his grave. It would look bad. So I think you're both right in that regard. And what I'll add, here's my prediction. I think Trump will live one day longer than Jimmy Carter did. He's going to be around for fucking ever. It's going to be awful. He's not going to shut the fuck up. He's not going to go into the distance. He's not going to give some Reagan-esque speech of, now my time going into the twilight of my... That's not going to happen. He's just going to keep doing all of that, and he's going to live till 101.
I think we're forgetting about one thing about and I will say this is the liberal mind right now, because I just heard an interview with Gavin Newsom and he said it point blank. There is a significant proportion of liberal world right now that doesn't think that this ends on January 20th, 2029. Right now, there is a real fear, because they are openly doing it, that they're going to try and steal the 2026 election and then the 2028 election through redistricting in 2026. And God only fucking knows what they're up to in 2028.
Stop the steal.
This is the fear.
More MAGA tape delay.
But when you look at people that are excited for even the possibility, with no facts whatsoever, that Trump may have died this past weekend, one of the reasons that I think that they're hoping for this outcome is that there is a fear that this man who already tried to steal an election, we do know enough to be able to conclude that from 2020. He's already tried to steal one. He's remodeling in the White House in a way that why would you do that if you're going to move out in 3 years? That is something that I've heard from a few people. I don't necessarily believe this, but this is what I've heard on this Gavin Newsom podcast this morning. So it's people are making these arguments in their heads for why you can't count on 2028 election being the proper way for this to end, because they think that the Republicans are going to try and rig it so badly that our democracy is like literally over in a few years. And while I'm hopefully optimistic that that's not the case, there is open election rigging happening now. And there was an attempt to steal the election in 2020 by faking election certifications and then trying to pressure the vice president into using them. Like, these are extreme actions that are happening in broad daylight. They're not hiding them. And so I think that is one of the reasons why there's some hope that, like, okay, maybe this ends because he'll just fucking die and then it won't go that far. That is a part of this.
Yeah. And that's so fucking indicative of a Democratic Party that is out of fucking ideas, that can't excite their own base with anything that they would do. And so we're now left to be the most popular person in the Democratic Party right now is Gavin Newsom, who is literally just doing a Trump impression. That's the most popular he's ever been online, is just pretending to be Donald Trump online and looking to eliminate the independent redistricting thing because Greg Abbott did it first. Like, that's the most popular man in the Democratic Party right now is that. And that is, to me, just a fucking absence of ideas, an absence of actual inspiration for your audience, that you can't even find an issue that isn't related to Donald Trump, that is owned by the Democrats, that you can push and make other people uncomfortable on the other side of the aisle. Like, that is intellectual fucking bankruptcy. And it's really sad to see a major party be in that state where the most exciting thing that their supporters can talk about is fantasizing about the opposition party head dying. That's
Absolutely.
Fucking gross.
Yeah, I agree.
Ugh. I mean, I don't know. It's sad.
A quick question for you, for both of you. I don't have an answer to this. If Trump were to die, do you think that J.D. Vance would be a better president or a worse president? Who would you be more comfortable with in the Oval Office, Trump or J.D. Vance?
J.D. Vance.
Okay.
Hands down,
How come?
J.D. Vance. I watched him as a senator, specifically in the aftermath of the Ohio train derailment, where they set the train cars on fire instead of, properly cleaning that shit up. And JD was furious with those companies. He was clearly moved by the people from those Ohio towns. Like, he did represent his constituencies well there in a way that had him fight the railroads, which was not popular amongst the other Republicans. I saw a human being in those hearings. And when it comes to wanting to be liked, I think that's more important to JD in a political sense than it is for Trump. I also think JD would be less chaotic. I think he would be more willing to work within the party. So that's why, I just don't think that the tariffs would continue, because I think when he does say he believes in the free market, I don't think it's complete bullshit. I think JD would be more willing to just be normal, honestly. And I know he's a couch fucker, and that's weird to say, but Trump, the chaos of it, we're going to take Greenland and Canada, and I just don't think that that's JD's game. I think he'd be a more typical Republican. And at that point, at this point, I think we can handle that better than we can handle Trump's chaos.
What do you reckon, Justin?
I mean, it depends on what you mean by better.
Well, okay. If an angel came down and went, you get to pick, you, Justin, either pick Trump or Vance to be the president. Either Trump will retire and Vance will step up, or the thing will be, which one do you think would be better for the country? Who would you feel more comfortable with in terms of leadership?
I mean, either are particularly my politics per se. I mean, I guess I have a hard time separating myself from the actual scenario of Donald Trump, not just being erased from our memories and all of a sudden it's President J.D. Vance, but rather Donald Trump is dead or resigns for some reason, at which point you would see for the next remainder of this term, J.D. Vance very cavalierly pushing through whatever people believe Donald Trump would have wanted, which is going to be something that would increasingly fracture and be debated in the same way that Reagan's legacy was, where everybody wanted to do impressions of the big man for fucking another 20 years before Trump came along. I don't know. I guess I see more of myself in JD Vance. He's about my age. He's, got young kids. So I think I can relate more to JD Vance than I can Donald Trump, who at this point is like, if Bigfoot was the president, like he's this like larger than life character that I don't really know. I mean, I can create a theory of mind for him, but I don't know what that really means, because everybody has a theory of mind for Donald Trump and they believe what he really wants or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, but then again, for anything that I might like on that side of the ledger, I don't know if anybody is going to be more effective than Donald Trump right now. I do think that there would be a burst of energy that would happen immediately after Trump dying, like I spelled out before. But I do think eventually gravity would take hold, and you would realize that, you know, JD Vance is not Donald Trump. JD Vance would have to carve out his own niche, and that right now he's kind of an incomplete grade. He was a senator for 5 minutes. You know, other than that, he was a venture capitalist with Peter Thiel's clique, and a memoirist, which is among the most loathsome trades anybody could ever, you know, assume at any point in life. So, yeah, I don't know what he would be. I think he's probably more shaped by his time in the White House now than anything that has happened to him previous in his life, would be my guess.
I guess when I answer the question, I know that no matter which one of them is president, I'm probably not going to like what they do. My comfort with JD Vance would come from what I think he wouldn't do. And that is because what I witnessed him do in the Senate was argue for environmental cleanliness, which the Trump administration and the Big Beautiful Bill, I mean, they've just been an environmental disaster in ways that we haven't even begun to feel the effects of. I know that JD Vance, like you said, he has young children and he did care about his community. No one was watching these hearings. He wasn't faking that. And so just the fact that I think that there is a part of that human being who cares about clean air, clean water, that's enough of an improvement for me to say I'd be more comfortable with him. That alone.
Heaton, answer your own question.
Sure. I think JD Vance is a big question mark. I don't know really what he stands for. He's evolved a lot in his thinking, going from memoirist to senator to vice president. So what a Vance presidency this term or in its own right would look like, I don't really know. The ambiguity of that frightens me. That being said, though, like I would have voted to remove Trump from office after January 6th. I think that should have been a totally disqualifying element for him ever holding federal office again. And for that reason, almost anybody you put up next to Trump, I'd go, well, they didn't do that, so I'm going to go with them. So I would prefer JD Vance.
Shocking that you guys would not like Donald Trump to be president. This is stunning new information.
I'm the guy who said he's going to live to 101.
I mean, like the guy who got fired for saying Donald Trump should be impeached before he did a January 6th. Like,
Yep. Go.
You should wear that firing like a badge of honor, my friend. Yeah. I love that.
If I ever meet Steve Colbert, I'll be like, hey, we got a thing to talk about.
Yeah, look at that.
We both used to be funny, and we got fired from TV shows.
Patreon.com/We're Not Wrong is where you need to go if you want to support the show, and you get a bonus episode for your troubles. On the bonus episode this week, we're going to be talking about freelancers seeing an AI boom. The thought that maybe all freelancers would be, out of a job. Now, not so much the case, because there's so much AI slop that's making shitty artwork and shittily coded apps that people are needed to come fix the things that people are only partially creating. We will talk about that phenomenon. So you guys get another, 40 minutes of this content, baby. It's a good time. Head on over there, patreon.com/We're Not Wrong, which I don't know, maybe we just leave Patreon and people just send us actual cash in the mail since the no tax on tips regulations.
Be sure to say their tips. Be sure to say their tips.
Yeah. So digital content creators are included. It is $25,000 on your taxes that can be counted as tax exempt, but you can't expect anything, right, Jen? That's how the law is written.
Yeah, it's crystal clear. So that's why, like, for Congressional Dish, I do give people bonus content if they support the show on Patreon. So Patreon does not count as a tip. But then I also have people that send in Venmos and Cash Apps and Chipotle gift cards and paper checks, quite a few paper checks. And those are all considered tips because if they don't send them in, they still get the same thing everyone else in the public gets. So I do accept tips. And I feel like We're Not Wrong could do both if we just put up a Venmo and let people tip us if they want to.
No, you can just give me money. I don't want to share it.
Money, please.
Money,
Please.
I don't want to do more fucking accounting for you people. Jesus.
You don't fucking have to. We can argue about this off here.
Buddy, I'm a fucking slave to you guys.
We can hire my sister. It'll take her, like, she's already doing it for my show. She can do it for yours too. It's fine.
Oh, so now you're self-dealing. Now I got to hire your fucking family.
Or just do it yourself. It's not that hard. You just download a CSV. It's not that hard.
So hard. It's so hard. Anyway, I just need there to be some kind of, I don't know. Maybe I just stop doing bonus content, or I just make all the bonus content free. And I just say, hey, just give me money. You're all going to get the exact same thing. And then
it
we'll
worked
just see.
for me for years. And honestly, now that I'm offering bonus content, it is not worth the extra work that I'm doing. It's not worth it at all. So there's a part of me that just might go back to, like, you don't get anything extra.
Or just do the extra thing. Like, it just not paywalled. Like, we just put it out there and just say, hey, give us money. If you want it, you can have it.
Yeah. I thought there would be a big incentive to go behind my paywall, but like there wasn't. Not enough. So
not enough.
I don't know.
Not enough interest in going deep behind your paywall.
Well, the people that are behind it like it, but
yeah,
I don't know. I don't know what to do.
All right, let's talk about this housing emergency. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent, who is the one who spelled out that digital content creators are included in no tax on tips, said Monday that President Trump may grant tariff exclusions on home construction supplies, offering relief to builders amid a stagnant housing market. Rising costs, high interest rates, and scarce supply have slowed purchases, leaving about 500,000 more sellers than buyers, according to Redfin. Bessent said Trump may declare a housing emergency in the fall and is considered standardizing building codes and reducing closing costs. He echoed that Trump's push for a Fed rate cut could spur demand, but housing affordability, he stressed, will be central to the administration's 2026 midterm agenda, with tariff policy and regulations still under review. Mr. Andrew Heaton, should the White House declare a housing emergency? And if you were advising him, what would you encourage him to do?
I don't like calling it a housing emergency. We've got a really bad housing situation, but a slow-moving, widespread dumpster fire is not the same thing as an emergency. And given that emergency is often invoked for express political powers, I'm very hesitant to call it that. Nothing specifically changed. We've had these problems for a long time. It is not acute, immediate, or temporary. So I don't think it falls under the legal definition of emergency, though I am very bothered by it. If he wants to exempt housing materials from tariffs, I think that's a great idea. We are then solving a problem of his making. We're not actually, all we're doing is maybe getting back to base level. So yes, please do that. It does raise some questions of, well, why would the tariffs not raise prices on everything else, but just raises, it's almost as if they raise prices on stuff the way we've been saying for the last several months. But if he wants to exempt materials that are used in housing, timber from Canada, gypsum, steel, stuff like that, great. I think that would be a great call. Yes, exempt them from tariffs. That's a really good thing. Beyond that, I don't think there's a lot the president can actually do in terms of the office of the presidency that would alleviate housing. Bessent brought up standardizing the code. There might be something to that. There are transaction costs that are entailed by virtue of having different codes for different municipalities that can make it difficult for construction companies to go across state lines. They can legally do it, but they may not have the intellectual apparatus necessary to adhere to the code standards of other municipalities. So there's something to that, but the federal government wouldn't have the ability to actually enforce that. Like the government could create this is our recommended template, and you can use it in your municipality, but they wouldn't be able to actually streamline it. I would like to see that kind of thing happen, say like in Texas. I think Texas has done some good stuff in terms of housing, where they'll come in and go, you can't do minimum lot sizes beyond a certain size. Like, we know that you want to go full NIMBY, we're only going to let you go quarter NIMBY. I don't think that there's a federal prerogative to do that. Where they might be able to make an approachable difference that gives me a little bit of cognitive dissonance, because it's pairing bring the housing costs down part of my brain with my local control part of the brain, is if there are housing grants and housing subsidies that are going to municipalities, you could make them contingent upon getting rid of ridiculous NIMBY bullshit and saying like, hey, Chicago or whoever, if you want to get this HUD grant that we've approved, you're going to have to make certain changes in terms of what you're up to. They might be able to affect changes like that. But for the most part, the problems that we've got with housing costs are largely supply derived, and they result from the fact that we don't really have housing policy in the United States. We've got an investment strategy. We decided 50 years ago, a little bit longer, that everybody ought to have a house, that this is how the middle class climbs up, is that you own your own property, and that enfranchises you into the American experiment, and that this is a great savings vehicle. And we've rigged it that way in the tax code very explicitly and turned houses from a commodity into an investment vehicle. And that's prompted two things to occur. At the municipal level, all of the municipalities, there are 22,000 different municipalities in the United States, and a huge amount of them go, oh, well, this is where all of my savings is now. So I want to make sure that my savings are protected, and I want to elevate them as much as I can. And I can do that by minimum lot sizes, obstreperous zoning, and so on and so forth. By restricting the supply, I'm going to increase the value of my house. Meanwhile, we try to juice it on the supply end through the tax code by having subsidies, grants, assistance with loans, where we inject capital into the housing supply without increasing the amount of houses. And that just means that you cause inflation in the housing supply. So there are deep structural problems with housing policy in the United States that I would love to be tackled. I don't think that there's a lot the president could do. But if he wants to content himself to exempting housing materials from tariffs, that would be a nice start, and I'd be pleased with it.
If Donald Trump became the full YIMBY president, would you put on a red MAGA hat?
I don't think I can ever get over January 6th and that election. I don't think I can.
We all did fucked up shit during COVID. Jen.
But I'd be thrilled if he became YIMBY. That'd be great.
So there's two parts to your question. First was, should the White House declare a housing emergency? Yes. I am an absolutely no on that one. That's an abuse of his emergency powers, one of many abuses of emergency powers. And so I think one thing that we need to do as a country is really rein in the emergency powers of the presidency. So that's a hard no.
Limit the executive?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Heaton's going to get too messing.
And if I were advising him, I would encourage him to do a couple things. First of all, I would go back to enforcing anti-monopoly laws, because there's more housing in this country than just single family for purchase housing. There's a lot of rental properties. There's millions and millions and millions of us that live in rental properties. And I actually don't know if I've talked about it on this show before, but the corporate job that I had that made me never want to be back in a corporation again was I was a corporate landlord. I had 444 units on the LAX runway. I lived there for, I believe, 6 years and worked there for almost 3. And what we used to do, now this was back in the early 2000s, like first term George W. Bush administration, because I'm old. And what I would have to do to get the prices for the other apartment buildings in the area to determine our prices was like, I would call and pretend I was a customer and say like, how much are you renting a 1-bedroom for? Or I loved it when I got to do this. I would get in my car and be a secret shopper in some of the other units to like, what are they renting? What's the difference in size? Like, so we were really determining our prices based on what we were able to see in our own local market. And then we also had to make sure, like, our goal was a 0% occupancy rate, because an empty unit meant less money for us. And so when we found that our occupancy was getting even close to 90%, we would drop our prices to get more people to move into the building. That really changed towards the end of when I was working there. They started rolling out software. First it was just within our company, but now there's a company called RealPage, and I believe there's something similar to it. But RealPage was being pursued by the Biden administration for anti-monopoly reasons, because what RealPage does is it goes to all of these different companies. So not only the one I worked for, but all the other big ones and a bunch of small ones too, and helps them all set their prices, which is price collusion. It's quite clear that that's what it is. And what you've seen in the rental market because of it is occupancy is no longer the goal, 0% occupancy. The goal is to keep those prices as high as possible. Now, as a renter that moves around all the time, the effect for me has actually been kind of nice, because I know that I can go to a corporate building, and the more units that they have, the more units they're going to have available at any time. And I can just move in that day and probably find something that's fine for me, because the occupancy has gone down because they're trying to keep these prices inflated. But that's a rigging of a market that we really need to do something about. And if you're just building more and more of these corporate towers, but allowing them to rig the market like this, and you're still going to have higher than natural vacancy rates, that's not going to solve the problem. In fact, in this country, I looked it up this morning, we have 15 million vacant homes in the United States. That's 20 vacant homes for every homeless American. And that's a very rough number. But the point is, we allow vacancies in this country, not just in the apartment buildings, but also in single family homes. So it's like, and this is in really poor areas. So I remember in Oakland, California, there were entire neighborhoods where people didn't really live there. So squatters were moving in. And then there was a battle with the city and the squatters because like these places have been vacant for so long. Also happens in really rich neighborhoods. I've been walking up and down this beach now for 4.5 months. And for the entire summer, there are quite a few mansions where the windows never opened, the shades never went up. They're just empty. Cape Cod, empty the entire winter. So we allow real estate hoarding by wealthy people as well. So I feel like we have to tackle vacancies in the United States. And I think the easiest way to do that is a vacancy tax. This is something that's been done in France, the UK, I think Germany has one, but there's other countries that have tried this and have found a meaningful way to bring down the vacancies by putting a cost on real estate hoarding. And I think that's also a way of like, okay, you want to own a bunch of places? We're not telling you can't, but we do make you pay for some of the societal harm that does, because land is valuable. And if you have it just sitting there empty all the time, that's not fair to the neighbors. It's not fair to the businesses in the area. And I think there should be a cost to doing that.
Heaton sees the vacation homes. It's greedy and bad.
It is.
I'll have to think about the vacation tax, or excuse me, the vacancy tax, because I'm not really familiar with that. That's an interesting way to do that. I wouldn't initially go that far. I would just remove financial incentives that exist for people to have multiple homes that are already rigging the system. So the tax code's already designed to help out homeowners. So if you're able to deduct the state and local taxes on your second home, I would remove that. I would say whatever tax advantages you get on a second home shouldn't be there. I don't think I'd go full on vacancy taxes. You might be able to talk me into it. I kind of doubt it. I don't think that it would create the necessary amount of housing everywhere. You don't see a correlation between market concentration of companies and the increase in costs. Like you've got like Matt Stoller's newsletter, he'll talk about how there's more market concentration in terms of construction companies, and he would define that as monopoly in, say, like Dallas. But Dallas has cheaper prices than in California, where you've got more construction companies. So I think collusion is bad, price fixing is bad, it should be illegal, it should be prosecuted where it happens, but it's a secondary or tertiary consideration on the overall cost of housing, which is that we have too restrictive supply, and we need to figure out how to get more supply. So that would be the main thing that I'd want to go with, is just figure out how to get more supply. That's my main thing.
I just think that 15 million homes is kind of a lot in supply we already have. And so if we build more supply and allow those to remain vacant, we're not really solving the problem. So that's my issue. Like, I'm okay with building more. I'm not disagreeing with anything that you said. I'm okay with building more, but I do think you have to have rules in place that encourage actual humans to move into those, as opposed to them remaining investment vehicles and having people from overseas or rich people coming and buying up the entire condo building. It sits vacant because they're trying to flip it or do whatever the fuck they're trying to do. There's people that are not actually moving into those units. I feel like tax advantages, this is something I think you and I can completely agree on. tax advantages for the one home you live in, and that goes for buying and renting. I think there should be some tax advantages for renters too. For the one you physically live in, nothing else. No help for any additional homes.
I'd go that far with you on that. Yeah, I think.
So we should prosecute I would prefer like mortgage fraud and stuff like that. Like where you're trying to say that it's a primary residence.
Justin, I know where you're going.
What?
Stop it.
What?
Stop it.
MAGA Jen's back. MAGA Jen hunting down the Fed chair.
Stop it right now.
Just saying.
Stop it.
The direction that I would like to go is I think we should quit using the tax code to prioritize housing as a form of investment. I think that was a major, major mistake. I would like it to be agnostic towards housing. Now, that could mean that you either pay less capital gains on other investments, or it could be that you remove the capital gains that you get on a house. I'd probably go more in the latter direction than the former, but a lot of people would want to kill me. The way we have it set up right now is in the United States, you can deduct $250,000 per spouse on capital gains, which means that if Justin and his wife sell their house, they wouldn't be taxed on the first $500,000 of it in terms of capital gains. But you don't have that kind of thing for a renter that is putting money into the stock market. So I think therein lies a lot of the problem, because we have designed a system to make the value of houses increase, and no one in America seems to understand that if the value of your house increases, so do the prices of housing. We can't have both ways. You can't have it be that your house is going to dramatically raise in value, and then you can sell it someday, and that's the equity you built up, and also have cheap starter homes for everybody. These are part of the same market. So I would change the tax code. I'm hesitant on the going further than that and having an in-occupancy tax or a vacancy tax. You might be able to talk me into it, but I'm hesitant for a couple of reasons. Housing's not super fungible, so the housing market might be very different in one area than in another. If in theory you have an acre in Colorado that nobody's living on, it's an old town, nobody lives there, and then you decide to build a ski lodge and people build houses there, you've created industry there, you've created jobs. It's not that the houses themselves are kicking people out, it's that something wasn't there, now there is something there. So I don't want to punish people for that. What I do want to do is remove undue advantages they're getting for having multiple homes.
Yeah, and when I think of the vacancy tax, I think when I'm targeting it in my head, it's not so much for single families. It's more for these corporate landlords, because I know the game that they're playing. And so I think it's a two-pronged strategy that I'm looking at, where it's like, stop the Real Pages of the world from existing. Stop this online price collusion that is being allowed, that allows them to inflate their prices and gives them an incentive to leave a unit on the market for 8, 9, 10 months at a high price, instead of bringing down the price because they need to get an ass in that unit. Like, that's what I would tackle first. I would tackle the rental market first with that, something like that.
When you were working in the rental market, their goal was to have maximum occupancy because they wanted to make the most amount of money.
When I was in it, yes, but RealPage didn't exist.
But if you're a rental business and you're only making money when you're renting it out, why would you want to have anything? Why would you even need to be prodded to get rid of unoccupied units? Like if I have multiple vacation houses,
it's a leverage thing. So like when I was there and we didn't have, this collusion software that was automatically jacking up all the prices, for us, we needed that unit to be occupied. And when our prices went down, there would be people that are currently living there. They would get their rent increase. They would come in and be like, we just noticed that the one next door is even cheaper. We've been here for 10 years. And so we would have negotiations with them. And sometimes even current residents would have their prices go down. You never see prices go down, or almost never. I mean, Austin's going down, but they've built a ton of supply. Right. But most of the time, your prices are not going down. And so what these companies want to do now is leave the prices high. So when someone like, if I've lived in this building for 10 years, I go online, I see like, well, I'm not paying market rate. And so I'm willing to take that price increase. So they would rather have the units that are rented be at a higher price than ever have them come down. So it jacks up the incentives. And then also a part of this is when you have the software that's determining your prices, it takes the power away from the leasing agents and from the managers. So once they put that software in my building, it's one of the reasons I really wanted to leave. I no longer had the power to, I can think of the lady's name right now. Her name was Sue. She lived there for 20 years. We were negotiating with her every single year because we didn't think she deserved to have her rent jacked up. She never asked for a new carpet, never got a new oven. Like everything was depreciating in her house. But once that software came in, we couldn't override it. And so it really took the power away from us and like became this AI generated thing. And that was 20 years ago. The situation's only gotten far worse from there. So I think that's something that needs to be dealt with. Now, like I said, the Biden administration was pursuing legal action because they had an antitrust enforcement agency that gave a shit. I don't know if that is continuing to be the case, but I think that's something that we could tackle that would make a real difference for those of us who are renting. And there's millions of us in this rental market.
If there is price collusion and they are working in illegal contravention to a competitive market, they should be prosecuted. I want to make that very clear. I don't think that this would be the primary way to reduce the cost of housing. Like I looked at ProPublica's stuff, YieldStar, RealPage, the program that you're talking about 8% of rental units are owned by the companies that use that. So 92% of the rental market doesn't use that particular software. When you get into...
That's only one software. Like I said, my company had their own. And this company had buildings in at least 10 states that I can think of off the top of my head. So it's like, it's only one software.
Sure.
It's a strategy.
When you would go look at the housing prices of other places, was that collusion? Were you all doing something illegal?
Well, so this is the argument that's happening in court because I had to like physically go and check it out myself. No, that's not collusion because like these people didn't even know I worked for the other company. But when you have the software grabbing automatically the prices in all these buildings and telling them all you should set your prices here because this is the max that you guys can get, that looks like collusion to me.
Isn't
that's
that just
digital.
publicly available data though?
That just sounds to me like a more efficient...
No, because they are feeding it back channel into this. So this is what the whole, like, I can't tell you how this is going to work.
That just sounds like
out.
A more efficient version of what you were doing. Like if your company was going and seeing what the prices that other people had, explain it to me. Again, if they're like, if they're meeting with other people from rental companies and saying, look, we'll agree to raise ours to X amount if you raise yours to X amount. That's collusion. That should be illegal. It's contravened a competitive market. It throws it like I'm with you. But if it's just they're checking prices of competitors faster, that's just information, and it's what you guys were already doing, but in a more efficient manner.
I think it's a distinction without a difference. I think like if you had two people sitting at a table being like, I'm going to put my prices here, you put your prices here, we're going to keep it above market rate and then keep jacking it up. And that way there is no competition. I see no difference between two people doing that at a table and then digital robots doing the same exact thing because they're all trying to maximize the prices. It looks the exact same to me.
It's just, but it is just information though, right? Like somebody at the companies has to make the decision if we're going to raise the price to X amount.
No, this is what I'm telling you. It all happens automatically. In fact, the humans are like we lost our power to work with our residents that we were trying, like the humans in my office were trying to keep people in their homes. The computers were telling us we couldn't do it.
Some human has to set it to auto price and some human at some level has to say, I'm going to trust the robot on it. Where I do think that the counter argument to what Jen is saying has purchased is right here in Austin, Texas, as you mentioned, that did see a gigantic uptick, and many of these buildings were using this technology. And then there was a retreat because there were more units. And so there was a more robust counterbalance to that where people did feel like, okay, well, if there's going to be enough buildings that are keeping this stuff way above market value, then we will try to make money with a higher occupancy. We're going to go a different route, more like the way that Jen had done it 20 years ago, as opposed to the let's rent out 5 apartments, but they'll all be at, 2.5 times what they would be otherwise. So I do think if you have more players on the field, and that gets into this NIMBY versus YIMBY thing, and you allow there to be more units built, then you are more insulated from this kind of digital price education, price fixing, however we want to put it. But if you are giving more bites at the apple for somebody to try and sink the market lower.
Yeah, more
yes, but
competitors
I
are
think
good.
what's happening in Austin is also temporary because we've had in Austin so many buildings go up in such a short amount of time, but that's not always going to be the case. So while prices are going down now, that will even out once people are in those units and then the market is full and then like you deal with this all over again. Because like in the commercial market in Austin, that Google building, that sale looking thing is still mainly empty. And there's no consequences to that. So it's just like, I do think that there needs to be some kind of consequence for having a lot of empty units while we're saying like, we are going to free these developers to take the empty land and like, okay, but I don't think freeing the developers is the only thing here. I think there should be rules on these developers and the people that run these buildings that say like, if we're going to give you the privilege of taking our open land and putting a tower on it, you need to have people in it and not rig it so that's like the highest possible price. Like that's above what market rate would actually be if you didn't have this collusion. I think that needs to be a part of the rules, and that's not even a part of the conversation right now.
Well, like Google, they wouldn't be able to move in people for residential purposes because it's zoned for commercial purposes. So like, which I would be thrilled to get rid of. I think we should be way lower on that. That's great. Good for them. There's a lot of unoccupied office space that they should do. I think the primary determinant, like the main thing, is supply and demand, and the main problem is we have insufficient supply. Austin's a great example. They built a lot more supply, so the price dropped. And you want to make sure that you're getting the supply and the right thing. We're really artificially restricted right now. I think that's the main thing. Anything else we're doing would be secondary or tertiary to that. So that's the thing I want to tackle.
I agree. And I think we're working on the same goal here, right? Like we both want to increase supply. I think for me, I'm just looking at, I would also like to keep open spaces. I'd like to keep parks. I'd like to keep, some land that's not occupied. And in order to do that, I'm looking at the existing buildings we have and how can we use those the most efficiently. So I think commercial space, there's giant towers in New York that are now being converted. Get rid of density laws.
Office. That's a really big part of it. Like a huge part of the problem we have right now is that pretty much every city in the country, about 80% of it is zoned for single occupancy family homes. Where you look at a map, it's a bright red spot, and then there's blue on the periphery. And it's illegal to build up in most of the country. So I want to get rid of those impediments because density would really, really help. I don't think you really have to get rid of that much land that we currently have because a lot of the issue is we just can't build up. There's plenty of capacity to build up. We just legally can't do it at this time. So that would do a lot to alleviate it.
I agree. I feel like the conversation is continuing, and I'm not just like us, I'm saying like nationally. It's all about build, 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 build. And we have the Trump administration, which is a real estate developer. So it's all like build, 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 where I think we have a lot of existing supply that we could already use. I'm thinking conversions. I didn't say seized by the government. Don't fucking do that.
Just stop squeezed for these greedy developers.
Robert Young.
Greedy bank developers.
But I do think that we should be concerned about greedy bank. I do think that this is an administration that would like to have no regulations in the business that Trump is in. I think it's something we should watch out for, and having the conversation be all build and no conversion, that concerns me because I do think that we have existing supply that we could use without giving, more land to these developers or to ruin existing communities. Like I'm here in a place that right now this community is fighting a tower that's someone wants to put up like right here on the beach. The reason that they're fighting the tower is that people have built up the hill behind it. They all have views. It's going to diminish the property values of all of the people whose views are going to be lost. I don't blame those people for saying no to that tower because
in my front yard.
Well, I mean, there are other places where this stuff could be built. And like I said, there's actually a lot of supply here in this city that is sitting vacant because we have no vacancy tax. So if you want to have more people in the city, you could require these people to either come to their fucking home and spend time in it or sell it or rent it out or do something. But we have so many houses here that are empty year round because rich people are just hoarding the real estate.
So give the government access to your ring so they can see your face to make sure that you're spending enough time in your vacation home.
Maybe. I don't know. I don't know how you'd enforce it, but I can tell you that it pisses me off.
There, though.
It's not good for this city to have this many vacancies. It's not.
I'm with him. Look, I'm for no building at all because I got mine and I want.
If you
my
own a
house
home,
to
it'll
be
make your
worth
home. If you
infinitely
restrict supply, it'll make it go up.
Yep.
Jen, in
Here we
this
go.
instance, though, you're on the NIMBY side. You would prefer that they not build anything that's dense in that neck of the woods?
No, that's not what I said. But like right now, we have giant buildings that are all like, there's a building 2 down from me that's at least an 8-bedroom house. So if you convert that, that could be 8 different apartments. I think conversions could work without allowing the towers to be 10 stories tall and then fucking over everyone who built the houses behind them. And the thing is about this 8-building unit, this is the one I keep talking about when like I'm thinking of something that's been empty the whole time. It's been empty the whole time that we've been here. And it's not the only one. A lot of these mansions, which are enormous buildings, have been empty the whole time. So it's like, I don't necessarily think the answer is allowing giant towers where the neighbors don't want it when you have existing vacancies in these places.
They should be seized.
So the way they handle it
in my mouth, that's annoying.
I'm
the
saying
way
that's
the way
what
they
I
do it in New York, which I think is actually a very smart way of handling that, is you're dealing with 2 things, right? We want more density, we want more ability to build housing up, and you have certain skyline elements that people want to see. So I have my building. I'm in apartment 4F. I'm overlooking the Hudson. I don't want a building put in front of me. That's an understandable position to be in. What they did in New York is buildings own air rights. So if there's a building over here, the guy in this building, we will come and buy the air rights above that building. We'll pay for the privilege of being able to keep that unobstructed view. That way, you don't have to have a blanketed anti-density ordinance that keeps things from building up. I think that would be a more equitable way of dealing with the situation that folks are dealing with where you are. That way, if it is important to them that they have that unobstructed view, that's fine. But if it's going to come at the expense of somebody else being able to build a house to live in, then they should be paying for that, as opposed to having some kind of anti-density ordinance. And I would couple it. I'm very much in agreement with you, Jen. Conversions are great. I want more fluidity in the housing market. I think we're really, really overzoned. And so I would couple getting rid of NIMBYism and anti-density ordinances with making it easier to convert things. That's great. I don't think you need an occupancy tax on apartment buildings based on what you're telling me, because I think if they've got a lot of unoccupied spaces, they're losing money. So there's already an incentive for them to get some kind of turnover there. What's the occupancy in rental units now as opposed to when you were there? In general, are there a tremendous amount of rental properties that are just primarily unoccupied? I do not know the answer to this, but my guess is that the occupancy level's not that different. The prices are much higher, but I would say that that's a product of supply and demand. But I'm guessing the occupancy is not significantly different.
Well, I mean, the reading that I don't have these stats for you, but the reading that I've done and just my own experience in renting like short-term places, like I go to these corporate units and I just talked to a corporate landlord here. They don't need to have 0% occupancy anymore. It is not the goal. The goal is to keep the prices higher. So to say that like they're losing money by having empty units, that's no longer true the way it was in the past. Like now with these software that are helping them do those calculations, 0% occupancy just isn't the goal. So I can't tell you like what the difference is. I can just tell you that if I went to my old building right now and wanted to move in, there's plenty of units available. And I find that all the time. I'll go back to my apartment building in Austin and like Austin's different. So it's tough for me to make the comparison in Austin because of all of the new supply. But like I could go to my old building right now and just rent an apartment right now. And that was always the case, but the supply would be pretty limited. There's just more supply now because it's easier to find a vacancy.
Can I give you
that I think would be the main thing is if you can increase the supply, then you get more competition, and then people could go, fuck it, I'm not going to live in that building. I'm going to go live in that building. And so supply, I think, would take care of that because it would create that competitive force.
Snap ChatGPT search. So take this all. Please do your own research. But I just asked occupancy or vacancy rates today versus 10 years ago. 10 years ago, 7.1% vacancy. Today, 7.0% vacancy. So nearly identical vacancy compared to 10 years ago.
But are you looking at rentals that use RealPage, or are you using?
I searched, the prompt was rental vacancy.
Okay. I still think 7% is too high. In my building, that was unacceptably high. So I don't think that changes my argument at all.
I mean, I wasn't trying to.
The building you're in, they were shooting for 90% occupancy at any given time, right?
We wanted full occupancy. That was our
full
goal.
occupancy, yeah.
Full occupancy, yeah.
And that makes sense. Like they want to make money. Yeah, that makes sense to me.
And like I said, like I'm not against building. I'm just saying that there's like this isn't one of those. Whenever I get into this conversation, it always goes to build, where I don't think that needs to be the only part of it. I think there are different things that are jacking up our prices, not only in houses for purchase, because that's also tends to be the conversation where we only look at buying a house, where I'm never going to purchase anything. I'm always going to be a renter, and yet I'm left out of this conversation. Like rental properties are never in the conversation, it seems like. And so I just feel like building is one aspect of this, but there's other things that we can do. And I just feel like converting existing empty buildings and not allowing so many vacancies that are free, essentially. I think there should be a penalty for long-term vacancies. I think all of these things together could help. And so I'm not saying just a vacancy. I'm saying that like, sure, do some building, but if you're doing all building and not, accounting for vacancies and for real estate hoarding, like I don't think it's going to solve the overall problem of ever increasing prices. You need a market that is functional in order for prices to sometimes come down. And I can tell you that like prices are not generally coming down. And I do think that the collusion, especially in rental markets, of these companies on prices, I do think that's a big part of it.
I don't know the answer to this, and I won't put you on the spot because it's a random thing. I would like to know what the distribution is between single family homes that are rented versus large scale apartment complexes that are rented. Because I do know that when you look at single family homes that are rented, it's overwhelmingly small players. The Urban Institute says that about 1% of homes that are rented are owned by large corporations that have 100 or more properties. About 3% are owned by groups that have 10 or more properties. So 96% of the rental housing market is like our friend Brian Brushwood, who like lived in a house, sold it, or bought a new house, rented out the old house. So there's a lot of the rental market that I don't think would be affected by RealPage, but I don't know what the distribution is between the high-rise apartment complexes versus the rental homes that are not corporate. They're smaller people.
Corporate housing and individual owners are a completely different game, and they should be treated completely different. Although I will say in certain markets, like going nationally doesn't really make sense with those stats, because in the Phoenix area, for instance, it's something like 30% of the single family homes now are owned by these corporate investors that are renting them back out to people as if they were in a tower. And so when I'm talking about rental markets, I'm really talking about the corporate towers, because it's a completely separate thing when you're talking about someone who owns like 3 different homes and is a landlord. But in those situations, you find that if you're a person that owns 3 homes in your neighborhood, then you don't want one of them to sit vacant. Like usually you really are pushing for those to be occupied because that's a huge income stream for you. Where if you're someone who owns, millions of units all over the country, then those vacancies, it's a completely different game. And so that's why like when I'm saying this, I'm speaking specifically of corporate landlords. For in a large way, I feel like individual owners that are good landlords in their communities, that's a different thing. I'm not really talking about that. And you can do exemptions. Like I think there's already exemptions for like if you own fewer than 5 or 8 units, something like that, you're not subject to a lot of different rules that like the Avalons and Equity Residentials and those type of units are subject to. They should be treated different.
Do you want to know what ChatGPT says the vacancy rate was in 2005?
Sure.
9.6. So we would have a lower vacancy rate now than we did 20 years ago.
Still too high.
Mm-hmm. We're Not Wrong Pod at gmail.com is where you need to go if you want to write into the show. We got so many of these. So many. The Jen is drinking paint chips portion of our program last week, almost unanimously did we have dozens of emails that said something like the following. Jen is probably not drinking paint, writes, "Hi, just listened to the latest WNR. Jen, the beige paint chips in your tea kettle sound like calcium carbonate scale. It's caused by boiling hard water and can build up quickly. Luckily, it's harmless. You can confirm it by drying one off and putting a small amount of vinegar on it. You should see a reaction. Love you all. And this was something that was said almost unanimously. This is not paint chips. This is calcium deposits. And you can just rinse it with vinegar and you should be good to go.
Okay, on the Patreon, I'll go right now and I'll grab one of these goddamn things and dry it out. And then I'll test it on the Patreon and see if there's a reaction.
Now there's a cell. There's a cell.
Science. I mean, I hope so. Because I really hope I haven't been drinking paint.
Grandpappy Heaton's doctor writes, sounds like Heaton's grandfather had delirium, which is unfortunately not uncommon during hospitalization, but is also reversible.
Good to know. Probably not in his case, is we think he's dead, but good to know as I get older.
I was thinking that. I was like, isn't he dead?
He's dead. Yeah.
He's doesn't sound
Wait, we think he's dead. So for Christmas, like now 10 years ago, I thought it would be funny to go on like one of those criminal rap sheet websites, and I was going to find everybody with my family's names and print out like somebody with their name, be like, hey, look, you're in jail for this, for arson or whatever. And so my dad is named Joe Heaton, as was his father. And I looked up Joe Heaton and like immediately, not on the felony database, but just in general, it popped up Joe D. Heaton, my grandfather, listed him as alive, and then listed alias, also known as Joe Meaton, an alias down there. And then it listed his last known address as not in the town that he lived and died in. So I was like, did Grandpa fucking fake his death? Because maybe. He's the kind of guy that might have done that. So it probably did, but let's say like a 5% chance that he went 2 towns over and like got a common law wife or something.
On the subject of the United States taking stake in defense companies, credit where credit is due, writes, Jen is right. The government doesn't get enough credit for audacious risks that pay off beyond expectations. What we have come to know as modern space flight started when a savvy politician focused on a likely future conflict with the Soviet Union through his support behind a visionary scientist who dreamed only of sending a rocket to space. So yes, give thanks to Adolf Hitler and Wernher von Braun. We could not have done it without you.
Cute. What do you want me to say to this?
One of my very, very dear friends, Gene Epstein, who's I call him Uncle Gene. We're very close. I like NASA, and Gene doesn't. He sees it as a waste of money. And I hadn't seen Gene in a year and a half, 2 years during COVID. And I went, hey, Gene, I'm back in New York. Let's go get lunch. He's like, yeah, let's get lunch. So I met at the restaurant near his house. Again, I hadn't seen him in a year and a half. Mm-hmm. And as my butt hits the seat, he goes, how can you want to fund NASA? You're going to take my money, put it in rockets like some kind of moon Nazi? You're a moon Nazi. Anyway, I think that was funny.
On the Cracker Barrel rebrand, the Nebraska Sandwich writes, as the secretary of the New York Huskers Alumni Association, I can tell you that Jen was very, very close. It is Runza, Runza, the home of the Runza sandwich, patterned after the German Polish Beirock. They're one of only 2 food items that are served at Memorial Stadium on game day, and they are the quintessential Nebraska fare. We pay an ungodly amount of money to get them shipped from Nebraska so we can have them for 1 or 2 games a year during college football season. If you're ever in New York City and you've got a fan who can hook you up with the best place to watch the Big Red in the Big Apple, go Big Red.
Roll Tide.
Runza. I was close. I think I called it a Runyon.
Runza. They got a good program now. They got Matt Rule. So, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, it stinks, right? Back in the 80s and 90s, there was a McDonald's near me that had the inside themed like a 50s diner. There was a jukebox inside. At one point, you could pick songs from your table to play on the jukebox. There was quite a bit of neon signage and pictures from the 50s on the walls. We also had an outside playground with an Officer Big Mac figure that was about 10 feet tall, and you could climb up the torso and look at the burger and look out of the burger portion. But in the 2000s, they tore it all down and rebuilt a current rectangle box design that looks like every other McDonald's.
Oh, that's a bummer. When's the last time either of you ate inside of a fast food restaurant?
Pretty regularly. I mean, like I drive
Really?
across the country. Yeah, I drive across the country fairly regularly. Go like from Austin to Oklahoma and back, and then I would go camping out in New Mexico, and then driving from Oklahoma to DC and back. So I'll stop at some places. When I have the dog, I'm a lot less likely to go in. But I love McDonald's hash browns. I know they're not great for me, but I love them. McDonald's,
No, like,
I'll get two.
I'll eat the fast food, but my question is like, when do you go? Because like when I was a kid, we used to go inside and sit down. Yeah, like I never do that now.
Oh, like Arby's. I'll go sit in Arby's. But it tends to be if I'm with my family, right? Like if we're going to go do something, then we'll go do it. But now it's just me and Wallace.
Something where it's
go to
awkward
Arby's
to
as
eat
a
in the car.
family?
Because I'm always eating in the car. Like no matter what, I'll eat in the car.
I always eat in the car. But I love that, like, the Heaton family. Like, where should we go out to dinner tonight? Arby's. You should go.
Hey, when we're in Wagner,
fucking bi-coastal strikes again.
Wagner, Oklahoma. Yeah, Wagner. There's some good food options in Wagner. That being said, though, the Arby's and the Pizza Hut are pretty good in Wagner. So when we're at Wagner, Arby's might be where we go. There's other good places too that I'll frequent that are local joints. But
By the way,
I don't count Pizza Hut as fast food. Like I would go and eat in a Pizza Hut to this day because they have a buffet.
Fair.
Fast
It's a
food doesn't
sit-down
have
restaurant.
buffet.
they don't anymore, do they? I think
Oh,
that's
it
a
exists.
bygone relic. Yeah.
That exists. You can still find them. I think the one in New Hampshire still exists.
I mean, they might still exist, but I don't think that they are common in the way that they used to be.
I know. I liked the inside. of a
Wendy's
Pizza
used to
Hut.
have a salad bar back in the day. We actually got an email that I didn't put in because it was a little long, but talking about Cracker Barrel and specifically people's connection to it that are beyond our soft-handed, college-educated, urban, sophisticate lifestyle that usually just moves from place to place. But they were saying that because a lot of these are based in small towns, the Cracker Barrel might be the restaurant in your town. And so it's the place that you go on dates. It's the place where you go to celebrate your birthday. It's like it has that connection for rural America. At least that was according to the one email that I didn't find interesting enough to read.
It's a cute. It's a cute restaurant.
What I'd kind of like to have happen. So like I'll probably get this wrong, but here in the UK, I believe that a significant amount of the pubs are owned by a brewery. Like Carlsberg will own the pub or Tennent's will own the pub, something like that. Like the distributor will actually own it, but they know that people like the local pub. Like I don't want to go into a pub that's identical to a bunch, maybe Weatherspoons, but even Weatherspoons will like come in and maintain the local stuff. Like there's a Weatherspoons here in Edinburgh called the Standing Order. That's an old bank. That's beautiful. But most of the pubs though, it maintains that local flavor to it. It's locally run. They'll maintain the old the old accoutrements. And it feels like a unique place. I like that thing. I don't mind the standardized food. I don't mind the standardized drink. In fact, there's a lot of benefits to that, but I like the local flavor to it.
You realize when you travel around that the American bar is really a crossbred version of German beer halls and English pubs, that we are not old enough to have the kind of ornate elements that English pubs will often have, and the soft cushions and the kind of the more ornate woodworking on the bar, but yet many bars look and feel in the same kind of almost claustrophobic spaces that English pubs do, and especially this has exploded with the craft beer revolution, where every people that brew a beer has to have a big thing. You have the big open German beer hall idea of like, no, we want to have this for events because there's a larger capacity that kind of comes in and out on it. But anyway, that's my alcoholic sociology. It's the land, man, right? The part left out in the Cracker Barrel conversation is the why of it all. The biggest profit maker in fast food is not the food, it's the land. The reason places like McDonald's, Pizza Hut, and Taco Bell have remodeled over the years is to make buildings less distinctive in order to make the land more valuable to a buyer if the entity were to close. A patch of land with a generic building on it is far more valuable than a patch of land that was clearly a Pizza Hut and will need to be demolished first. Cracker Barrel was attempting to follow that trend and take away its distinctive identity to increase the value of the land. The remodel was meant to increase profits, but not the way that you think.
That's fascinating. That's never occurred to me. It's a really, really interesting point. The bit that confuses me a little bit, though, is that, like, if you're gonna scrape away the McDonald's anyway, like if you're gonna buy the land and bulldoze the McDonald's, then what does it matter what the McDonald's looks like?
If it's a fucking
like,
Eiffel Tower, who cares?
Yeah, and if I don't know, I feel like when you buy it, I don't know, you don't buy a McDonald's and then convert it into like a Staples or something. Like they're fairly unique looking, so I think they just kind of get bulldozed
Also,
when they.
A lot of those that the emailer wrote in about are franchises where the actual value is selling the franchise to somebody else. Like it is far more likely that a McDonald's would be sold to somebody else who wants to own a McDonald's franchise that's already running than it would be to sell the land and then bulldoze the McDonald's and then build something else on top of it. So I don't know exactly how much this theory connects, but it's an interesting one.
If this listener here, we could get into a really good conversation about Georgism. I'm going to hold back. I'm going to hold back on my monologue about land value tax, but I think we'd have a good chat, listener.
I also think that there's very few restaurants that need a specific building. Like when I landed in Dallas, I left the airport and there was a Chick-fil-A being built next door to a Chick-fil-A. And they were calling it the Chick-fil-A extension. And it was very clear that they were just taking whatever the hell that was. I think it might have been a Burger King before and just turning it into a Chick-fil-A. So I don't think it's, I can't really think of any. Maybe a Wiener Schnitzel is the only one I can think of that has a distinctive building shape.
Yeah, like Waffle House, because they've got that peaked roof.
Yeah, Checkers.
Waffle House, Pizza Hut.
Checkers has
Pizza Hut's not that picky.
the double driveway. Yeah, Pizza Huts have long ago given up on their distinctive shape.
Yeah.
But also, I don't feel like do they go under that often? I don't. When I'm back in Oklahoma, like the last thing to go in a small town is a funeral home. They never leave. That's the last thing. But like prior to the funeral home, though, like the McDonald's tends to be pretty stable. Like I don't feel like it's
McDonald's. It's the greatest achievement in restaurant economics ever. Like it has a standardized menu, standardized pricing. It's hard to go broke with a McDonald's. You need a lot of setup
McDonald's
costs.
is one of those that like makes a point to own the land and then basically like leases it out to their franchise. Like McDonald's and the land connection, that one's real.
Yeah.
They make a lot of money from being landlords. But yeah, McDonald's is also like, I don't understand who's eating this much McDonald's, but there's always a line. Okay.
I read, or I was listening to, I think it was on the Ruthless podcast, but they were talking about that there's a battle for Hooters right now. That Hooters is owned half by private equity or more than half in private equity, and then another portion from the original owners. And the private equity is trying to whore up the waitresses in a way that is uncomfortable for the original owners of Hooters, who are like, this is a wholesome restaurant where big-titted women just wear bicycle shorts, like for families, not these thong whore outfits that the private equity is forcing these women to turn around in.
Yeah, that's real. They're trying to put the tits back in Hooters.
Oh yeah, because they got out restauranted by the
is it Twin Peaks
of the world.
Twin Peaks,
I've never been in a Twin Peaks. Is it good?
They have
I don't know.
ice
I actually saw it
beer.
in Mexico City, so Twin Peaks is an international thing now.
No, Twin Peaks went in. So next to where I grew up in Davie, Florida, they put in a Twin Peaks, and it became a go-to for my friends and I. There was a joke of like, there was one friend who just constantly wanted to go to Peaks. It's like so much so that I made a meme of him just with a thought bubble that just said Peaks, just because whenever he would put in the group chat, you want to go to Peaks, I would just mock him by putting in that.
But Justin was just there for the chicken nuggets. He wore a blindfold.
I'm there. Was there for the ice cold beer. You know, it's ice cold. You know, and there's nothing about ice cold temperatures and tits that are supposed to be thought together. It is just, you know, just a nice, wholesome time for families. Grok's answer to the earliest use of the term for cracker to describe whites writes, quote, the earliest known reference in print for the term cracker referring to a white person appears in the 1766 letter to the Earl of Dartmouth, where G. Cochrane writes, quote, I should explain to your lordship what is meant by crackers, a name that they have got from being great boasters. They are a lawless set of rascals on the frontiers of Virginia, Maryland, the Carolinas, and Georgia, who often change their places of abode, unquote. This describes Scots-Irish settlers in the southern backcountry, linking them to their boastful behavior and derived from the Gaelic crake or the English crack for entertaining talk or bragging, as seen in Shakespeare's King John, which, you know, that is a thing with Irish people. They will say, like,
it is for the crack. Where'd you go for the crack? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's funny.
Yeah.
So
But that's
basically,
apparently where crackers comes from.
crackers are talkative digital nomads like me.
I think with
My
like a
dad used to call me and
distinct
my brother
hillbilly
Florida
element to it, but
crackers.
yeah.
You guys just
What'd you
joked
say,
over
Justin?
each other.
My dad used to call me and my brother Florida crackers. And then I told my wife that, and my wife thought it was so funny that she went and got vintage signs from Florida that has crackers on it. It's like old, like real old signage that has Florida cracker on it. And then we had my daughter's birthday party last week, and we put a changing area for all the parents who were bringing babies that if they needed to change a diaper. And my wife took down the cracker sign because she was afraid that it would give off the wrong impression that we had cracker signage in our bathroom.
Oh God, if they can't handle the cracker sign, they're going to get to know you guys at some point.
I know.
Yeah.
And they really didn't like the rampant use of the N-word. For your annoyance, writes, on TikTok, it was just a continuation of so this is the Cracker Barrel redesign. On TikTok, there was a continuation of a long-standing trend of Gen Z being mad at companies for removing all character or aesthetics and replacing them with minimalist design, i.e. Banana Republic going from a cool jungle store to sterile minimalism. It is the same vein as home flipping, removing all character from homes and replacing it with millennial gray. On TikTok, this is a part of Gen Z counterculture's movement toward maximalism and rejecting the minimalism of our millennial lifestyle.
That stuff is hilarious and fascinating. Like, so my parents are from the 50s. My grandparents were from the aughts and the teens and the 20s. And like, there's this completely different aesthetic preference where like in the 50s, the way people were thinking was like, I want something clean. I want it to be factory produced in plastic because plastic's easy to clean. And that looks tacky to us. And then like my generation comes in and we're like, I want to buy a table, but I want to pretend that it has a story. So I'm going to buy a table from a large corporation that has a former war orphan, bang it with a hammer for a little bit to make it look fucked up so I can pretend it's got character. And it looks like they're now going a different direction.
Yeah, now they want tacky. All the shit that we took out because when we got in charge, we're like, I mean, the Rainforest Cafe was great for an 8-year-old. I just want a clean lined, minimalist, flat design where I can get in and get out. I don't need all this bullshit. I don't need
I think I'm with the bullshit people.
Orangutan winking at
I
me.
want the animatronic
definitely with the
orangutan. That's an
bullshit
option.
people.
Yeah, I want the
Andrew,
bullshit.
you like having flair. You're a flair guy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's
my
it's-
favorite piece of furniture I've ever owned is a coffee table that actually they have here in this apartment where you can like lift up half of it and there's storage inside.
Yeah.
It was from Bob's Furniture. I think it's the best thing I've ever purchased. There's no flair.
I just want that animatronic orangutan now. Like I'm always pro animatronics. Animatronics make everything hilarious.
Heaton, we all know that you have a special connection to Gen Z. More writes, I don't know why companies want to sanitize their brand so much. Like McDonald's used to be a magical drug trip where kids could scream and cry in front of a horrific clown and monster statues. We used to wear dirty paper crowns at Burger King. We used to throw peanut shells on the floor at Texas Roadhouse. It's not just a sterilization of a few brands. It's the slow, necrotic erosion of American culture. We aren't just consumers. We're human beings with hopes and fears like clowns and peanuts. We don't want to have an easy experience when we go out to dine. We don't want easily cleanable surfaces that won't be cleaned anyway. We don't want neutral colors. We're Americans. We want vibrancy, intrigue, fear, LSD, and anaphylaxis. USA, USA, USA.
God bless this writer. These were all good messages this week, gang, but that takes the cake. Good job, whoever wrote that. Kudos to you.
As always.
Would go to Twin Peaks with this person.
There we go. Yeah, the next meetup's going to be at Peaks.
And Jen, I actually want to go. I want to see what the inside of that place is like. So let's do it.
Have you never been to a Twin Peaks?
I was walking by it in Mexico City, but they didn't have a patio. And so we didn't go because we had the dog. Because we always have this damn dog.
When Ashley and I were in Tokyo, I kept joking that anything that had an orange sign, I would joke to her like, oh, we found the Hooters. And then one time we were walking through Shinjuku and we legitimately found a Hooters. There's one Hooters in Shinjuku.
When I was in New York, I dated a gal that had been a Hooters waitress for a little while, and it did not sound a lot of fun based on what she was telling me. It sounded like it was more fun for the people in it than for her. So,
I have a Hooters waitress in my life, and she enjoyed her time there. She has a really good sense of humor, and I think you kind of have to be one of those people that can hang with the boys because.
The way the gal explained it to me was that there were a lot of guys at this particular Hooters that couldn't afford to go to a strip club, so would just stay at Hooters all day and drink Diet Coke, and that would just become exhausting. And they would like take pictures of her without asking, and it just it got weird. I don't know.
Yeah. Part of the job.
Not great. We're Not Wrong is a production of Dog and Pony Show Audio. Our editor is Will Saddleberg. On PX3 this week, I have a politician on. I don't like to have politicians on, but I had one on. He is a Democrat running against Greg Kasar in what is now the only liberal district in Austin. He acknowledges that it is a suicide campaign that will probably get him blackballed from any Democratic stuff. But he described, he actually has a really interesting story. After the election, he felt really, really demoralized and wanted to help rebuild specifically Texas, which had lost ground after a series of elections where they had gained ground, the Democratic Party in the state. So he called the local county parties and said, look, I got access to money. I want to run. I want to run in Chip Roy's district. I know I'm going to lose. If I can just move our number up a little bit, if we can talk to people, if we can expand our brand, then that's good. I'm willing to do all the work and spend all the money. And they told him, you're not diverse enough, because he was a white guy. And so he had a few other negative experiences with the local Democratic parties, so much so that he's like, you want to know what? If I'm going to shake it up, I got to shake it up. And so he is running against Greg Kasar, and you can hear all about it on PX3.
Why would he run against the Democrat instead of any other Republican
Well, he's primarying them. I mean, primaries are cool. Primaries are good. Primaries make people think about their candidacy and who they're speaking to and whether or not they are leaving out elements of their constituency. So that is that. Listen to it. Oh, and Jen's on Friday because we don't spend enough time talking to each other. So we're going to go over what is going to happen during the rest of Congress, which is going to be jam fucking packed. All the roadmap for the stuff that is going to happen, you'll hear on Friday's PX3. Jen,
I've been back for one day and I'm already exhausted with this.
Oh my God.
Session of Congress.
I'm just over the fucking Epstein stuff. Like, I don't know how much we're going to talk about it. Like, just
get ready. It's not going anywhere.
I've read too much Michael Tracy where now I'm like, so, okay. He had a pipeline of pussy coming out of Palm Beach in New York. Some of it was likely underage and he should go to jail for that. The evidence of sex trafficking seems sparser in that, like, there's a line between I'm introducing you to other rich friends and like I'm going to kidnap you and force you to fuck these people. There's also a big question mark on how much money there was. And like, I don't know. I'm now more on the side of like, maybe this is all a lot less interesting than we thought. I've kind of gone from like, he's definitely a Mossad agent who laundered money for the government, and every politician, including Donald Trump and Bill Clinton, are involved and paid for underage sex with Jeffrey Epstein, to maybe this is all just like a Me Too era explosion of something that is way less interesting than what I just described.
Yeah, maybe. But
maybe. I don't know. Jen, political or no, that's the other one. You do the
What's the name
congressional
of my
dish.
show, Justin?
I know. I'm sorry. I got too upset about Epstein.
Twin Peaks. It's called Twin Peaks.
Yes, I do have Twin Peaks. So my show is called Congressional Dish. And since the beginning of this year, I've been doing episodes just for people to support me on Patreon called Last Week in Congress. And so I tortured my assistant in the month of August and had her listen to all of them and pull out the most interesting parts. And so it turned out that most of the interesting stuff was confirmations. And so this was really a summary episode of everything that's happened in Congress since the beginning of this year. So you'll find out about pretty much all of the new laws. There's a few I left off because they're dumb and won't affect you at all, like naming a post office, that type of shit. But for the stuff that matters, you'll hear about all of those. And then I just grabbed all of the clips from Last Week in Congress about interesting confirmations. And it was fun for me to listen back to it because I just heard 25 of them in a row myself speaking over the last 8 months. So it actually turned out to be a really interesting episode. And I think I'm going to do more of these going forward, these like summary episodes, because I think it's going to help us stay current in figuring out what these people are doing. So check that out. And I would love feedback on whether you guys like these summary episodes, because usually I do one summary at the end of the Congress, but I think these might help us be better prepared to vote if I do them more often. So yeah, check it out and let me know what you think.
Heaton, what's going on Something's Off?
My show, Something's Off with Andrew Heaton, has a deep dive on it this week. I got really interested in Iran back when we almost went to war with Iran. You guys remember that? We talked about it.
Yeah. Fun times.
So I got interested in a couple of things. I got interested in, one, if the Ayatollah fell, whether that happened through internal collapse or he got pushed, who would likely run Iran? And it gets sticky real quick.
Vance.
It's not like J.D. Vance. J.D. Vance, a lot of people don't know, he's actually ethnically Iranian. He grew up in Tehran. So I go into that. But to do that, I have to set the stage of how Iran got to where it is. So what I've done is I've done an episode on starting with the Shah in 1950, going into the coup that pushed out Mossadegh and all the way to the Iranian Revolution. And then from there, what would happen if the Ayatollah fell. Jen, I hate to put anything on your plate, but I think you would like it for this reason. Whenever we almost invade Iran next time, it would give you a lot of ammunition to talk about the situation that was set up there. And one of the things that really surprised me was that the coup that was orchestrated by the United States and MI6 was actually a lot more complicated than I hitherto thought it was. So like, just as a little bit of a taster, Mossadegh, who's the guy that we pushed out, had, right prior to us pushing him out, had a national referendum on suspending parliament and giving him power of edict to, basically be an emergency dictator. And the referendum was 99-1. And so I look at that and go, oh, so we did a coup. I don't like coups, but at the same time, the guy that got pushed out wasn't quite as democratic as he's often remembered. Like there is a lot of nuance and a lot of gray there. So I go through that. If you listen to the episode, you'll be familiar with the Shah. You'll know Mossadegh. You'll understand how the Ayatollah came in, and if the Ayatollah leaves, I identify about 4 different groups that would love to fly back to applause and/or gunfire and pose as the legitimate government of Iran.
I like that. I find both of your episodes interesting all the time, but I do think it's going to turn into a drinking game on this show with you guys being like, Jen, you'd really like this one. You should listen to my episode. You guys do that all the time.
Well, yeah, but the last time I did it was when your Instagram crush was on it. So I actually
and
knew
I didn't
that
listen
you'd
to
like it. And you didn't fucking listen to it.
No.
Jesus. Well, that's why I have to bring you on, so I at least wring some content out of you if I can't get any validation.
I'm just going to start shit talking Jen more. I don't do that on my show, but
Yeah.
apparently I can.
No,
You
yeah,
sure
yeah.
can, 'cause
Just
I'll
be
never
like
know.
Jen, who's a fucking moron. Until next time, for Jen Briney and Andrew Heaton, I'm Justin Robert Young, reminding you that we're not wrong. Donald Trump's fake corpses.
Dog and Pony Show audio.